3 new commanders just got patched into Rise of Kingdoms this morning, including the new city garrison commander and also 2 new ranged commanders. And I will make the argument that most people can skip them entirely and save all their sculptures and gems for other projects that they're working on. So stick around in this video for a full rundown of not only all the things that we got in today's patch, but also whether or not you can simply save your sculptures. Hello, my friends, and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming, and I love trying to find value in Rise of Kingdoms. And in a patch like this, where we're getting new ranged commanders and also a city garrison commander, the value might be in not spending your sculptures at all on these new commanders and saving them for other projects. So in this video, we're going to do the following things. First and foremost, we're going to go over the information we have so far about the skills on these commanders. I was hoping that this morning they would show up in game so we'd have their real values. They're not here yet. So we're going to make this video off the information we have. And from there, we'll talk about the other things that made it in from this patch. So first up, we're going to talk about Babur. And this is a ranged commander. He's going to be available from the Wheel of Fortune. Now, that makes him very, very obtainable. However, should you go for him? I first want to talk about ranged commanders in general, and I will observe that in spectating the KVK with 1960 and 365, they're really not using much ranged combat at all, and the physical location of the open field fighting can change dramatically. So I'll make the argument that if you're in a big Imperium kingdom, your expectation is that you're bringing a lot of open field marches that move around a lot. Maybe you could get the value from ranged, maybe, but you're probably supposed to be managing multiple accounts at a time and have your farm account sit back with its ranged commanders plinking away at a distance. Just guessing. I think, however, if you are not someone who actually likes to spend billions and billions of resources open field fighting, and you want to micromanage a march or a couple marches that sort of sit in the back line, funny enough, I think that ranged combat could actually be for you. It all depends on their skills. So Babur deals skill damage to the target troop, and this can only be used in ranged mode. So he's got an active skill. It's doing skill damage. Presumably it's a big number. Because it's only doing damage factor, presumably this is a number between 2,300 to 2,700. I mean, it could be a very big number depending on how much they want to push the power level of ranged. Now from here, second skill, increase the attack of all siege units and defense of siege units, and this commander deals more ranged normal attack damage. So I like the things on ranged commanders that make you deal more damage because theoretically you should never get hit. Realistically you will, and when you do, the defense will be valuable. From here, in ranged mode, this commander's troop takes less damage from normal attacks. So when they do close the distance, you'll take less damage. And ranged normal attacks from this commander's troop have a 10% chance of dealing additional skill damage to the target troop. This number could be large. I guess it's in the realm of like 500 to 1,000 damage factor for instant proc damage. So I also would guess, by the way, we're looking at a normal attack reduction of probably in the realm of like 10 to as much as 20 or 30%. So Babur could be strong, but let's read the final skill, then the expertise. Increase the health of this commander's siege units, and when taking damage, this commander's siege units have a 10% chance to gain increased defense and increased damage for 3 seconds. This effect can trigger once every 5 seconds. So my guess here is that we're looking at like 20 to 30% bonus siege unit health, and the siege unit defense bonus is probably in the realm of 20 to 30%. The damage bonus is probably somewhere between 5 and 20%. That would be my guess here. But let's look at the expertise. Increase the attack of this commander's siege units, and whenever they use an active skill, their troop will gain rage per second for the next 3 seconds. I actually like this a lot. I think that Babur is going to be a strong ranged commander, and I think that ranged will be really good for people who want to micromanage a march rather than run around with a bunch of field marches. In fact, you'll probably micromanage several ranged marches and make a lot of siege equipment, if that's the route that you're going to go. So I think that Babur is likely to be strong, but not so strong that everybody needs to change around what they're doing and include a ranged march, which actually is a good level of balance, in my opinion. But there is another ranged commander we need to get a look at, who you might pair with. Let's go check her out now. This is Margaret, another ranged commander that, on her active skill, for the next 3 seconds, range normal attacks from this commander deal more damage and deal additional skill damage. So it's doing normal attack damage boost and skill damage boost while they're hitting the enemy for some number of seconds here, for 3 seconds. So this is kind of like if you look at Sargon, how he buffs himself, also Frederick I, how he buffs himself. This looks like a buff to yourself that makes you deal more damage and deal a skill damage factor per turn for those 3 seconds. But this only works when you're in ranged mode. So this is honestly like the Freddy of ranged commanders, I suppose. Second skill, increase the attack of this commander's siege units and their march speed. And range attacks from this commander's troop have a 10% chance to increase normal attack damage for 3 seconds. And this can trigger once every 5. So we're probably looking at in the realm of, let's call it 30 to 40% siege attack boost, and then also a march speed boost of probably 20% if I had to guess. Could be as low as 10%. And then a normal attack damage boost probably in the realm of 20 to 30% for the trigger when that happens. So far, we're looking at 2 very different commanders. One more oriented towards boosting your normal attacks, which seems to be where Margaret's at, and Babur more about skill damage, but Margaret does some skill damage too. Let's keep going. In range mode, this commander's troop deals extra range skill damage, and when their troop deals skill damage, it has a 10% chance to reduce the march speed of the enemy. Okay, so as it turns out, she's also going to care a lot about skill damage. She boosts your skill damage by a percentage, which could be as high as, I don't think it'll be as high as Esong's 50%, but the number could be pretty high. Like, if the developers are trying to push the power, this number could be high. And reducing the enemy's march speed by, historically, we've seen march speed reductions of like 50%. This skill could be extremely strong, depending on what those final values are. And then, final skill before expertise, increase the attack of this commander's troops. Ranged normal attacks from this commander have a 10% chance to reduce the target's defense and can trigger once every 5 seconds. So this is really good. We're probably looking at 20 to 30% attack boost, except here's the thing. It says damage bonus over here. And historically, the upgrade previews are correct and the text up top is wrong. So I think this is probably a damage bonus of like 10%. And then it could be as high as 15%. And then range attack from this commander's troop have a 10% chance to reduce the defense, probably by 30%. That's usually the number. So Margaret is a debuffing commander. Reducing the enemy's march speed and defense is really good. Increase the defense of this commander's siege units by a percentage, and when taking damage, this commander's troops has a 10% chance to heal itself that can trigger once every 5 seconds. Once the enemy is on top of your marches, assuming that they actually have the field, you're kind of dead anyways. So I don't know that triggering a heal on yourself is going to be all that amazing. However, if you're wondering whether or not you should invest in these commanders, I think the answer is a solid yes, if what you want to do is micromanage ranged marches rather than run around with a bunch of marches in the field. I think there's really going to be 2 kinds of players moving forward. There's the ones who are going to bring lots of open field marches. That includes myself, 7 of them, smashing down your door. And there's going to be players who don't have the resources and speed ups and equipment and gold sculptures to maintain that, or even to get the crystals to unlock the 7th march in the first place. And from there, there's really going to be, in my estimation, 2 types of players. The players who are bringing like 5 marches to the open field, like my restart account, where I do spend, but I'm not spending a ton. In that instance, I still think I'm going to have all 5 open field marches. And why do I say that? I say that because when you have more marches on the field, you win more. It's like pretty simple. So to have a march that gets left behind when the fight moves away from your location is not good. I think that these ranged commanders are good, but I don't know that everybody needs to go for them. I think you're going to end up with players that really focus on being in the mix, and they're going to have all their marches be open field marches, so you can hit the same thing regardless of where it is and go where you need to go. And I think there's going to be players who should focus on ranged. And I actually think that players that are more casual perhaps should be more interested in doing ranged, because you're not actually running around doing a lot of field fighting anyways. If you're going to take the time to micromanage a march, it may as well be a really strong ranged march where you're not even going to take any damage anyways if you have control over the open field, or you play really defensively and pop into cities when you need to. So I think that players should potentially go for these ranged commanders if, weirdly enough, you're more casual in the game and you're not going to run a meta murder ball. Now, that said, Margaret's going to be available from an event where you buy her, and you can also get her for free, but let me show you. In this event, you can buy your way to a higher tier of rewards and get some extra sculptures of Margaret. You basically praise her. That's what laud means. You're going to praise her over and over until you get her unlock. That's what's going on here. And you can buy your way into the additional sculptures. I don't think you have to spend money to get the unlock, but either way, it's going to be a lot of sculptures to actually expertise this commander, assuming she doesn't end up somewhere else in game. So where might she end up? I mean, if they make it so that you can only use Margaret sculptures to upgrade Margaret. In other words, you can't use universals like Minamoto, like Ethelfled. Maybe she goes in, maybe she goes in the metal store, but I don't think the developer is going to do that. I think the way this is going to work is that either this event will show up periodically, or perhaps sometime down the road, they'll move her to gold keys. So you could potentially save your gold keys, and then eventually perhaps she will be there. But if you want to get her quickly, you're going to have to use universals. It's going to be a lot of universals to expertise her and also the wheel commander. But she, as it stands today, is a lot like a Mightiest Governor commander in terms of the amount of universals you're going to have to invest if you want to expertise her quickly. And that is a very high cost. That said, her kit looks extremely strong, even without the numbers filled in. As long as they're on par with what we've seen, then it's going to be good. And if the developers push the power, that could get really interesting. The other commander you could consider skipping is Heraclius, and funny enough, I actually am going to expertise this commander almost certainly. A city garrison commander, if they're better than the ones we have today and they've pushed the values that are on this commander, then I'm probably expertising him, and I think most people should skip him. Most people shouldn't take rallies. But as a content creator, let me tell you, I can definitely justify spending sculptures on a city garrison and getting myself rallied for content. That is just like straight up value. But most people don't need to do that. Most people should just avoid it and just use a peace shield. And the only time you really would need to use city garrison commanders is if your city is imprisoned in your off territory and something has gone wrong for most people, if that's a true statement of your situation. So let's get a look here at what this commander does and why I think they are potentially skippable. They deal damage to up to 5 nearby targets, which you'll love to see that. And damage to each target is reduced by 15% for each additional target you hit. This also grants this commander's troops a mighty shield for 3 seconds. So you're looking at AoE damage plus a shield. Now, shielding effects are interesting. The weirdness of a shield is that they don't stack. So one shield effect does not stack with another. But I don't know what a mighty shield is. And maybe mighty shields are stackable with other shielding effects. And you'll see why I'm saying that in just a moment. But this is a circle AoE hitting 5 marches. So he theoretically could be good in the open field, but you'll see that a lot of his skills are actually oriented towards city defense, which is going to make me question, should he really be used in the field? Now, he's going to increase the health by a percentage. This could be probably in the realm of 20%. When serving as a garrison commander, normal attacks from this commander's troops have a 10% chance to increase your counterattack for 3 seconds. And it's a different percentage boost if you're garrisoning your city. This effect can trigger once every 8 seconds. So this is really good anti-swarm. I mean, you've seen me make a bunch of videos where people get swarmed when they're imprisoned, and that's really the only way to zero somebody if they are imprisoned, is to swarm them like crazy. This could be extremely strong in really punishing people who are doing that. In terms of what the values might be here, I would assume it's like 20% counterattack damage if it's not your city, and then maybe like 30% if it is. Something like that would be reasonable. If it's higher than 30% for your own city, oh my God. At that point, it's getting a little out of hand. From here, the next skill, increase skill damage of this commander's troops. When they use an active skill, their troop gains a mighty shield. And this is where I start to wonder, wait a minute, do mighty shields stack with each other? Because it says this can only happen once every 8 seconds. And this, by the way, is a damage factor that is different if you're garrisoned in your own city. So you get a bigger shield if you're garrisoning your own city. But this active skill over here just said that it gives you a shield. So I'm a little bit confused because shielding effects don't stack. So do mighty shields stack with each other? Or do you need to use Heraclius as the secondary commander so that here's what would happen. The active skill of the primary commander would go off. You would get this ability to trigger, which would give you a shield. Then there'd be a second of downtime. Then there would be your active skill on Heraclius. Your shield is probably worn off at that point. Then his shield would apply to your city. Then, presumably by the time you skill cycle again, it will have been the 8 seconds. And you could get the shield all over again, maybe, on the primary commander. I don't know. If these shields don't stack, then I'm really confused as to why there's 2 shielding effects on this commander, both tied to the active skill activation. That is something that definitely is leaving me with a bit of a question mark. From here, next skill, increase the defense of this commander's troops by probably 20% and attack by 20%. They could be 15 each. When garrisoned in a stronghold or your city. When their troop is attacked while it has a shield, it has a 30% chance to deal direct damage factor to the attacking troop. This is probably a damage factor of like 800-ish. This effect can trigger once every 8 seconds. So shielding is an important component of how this commander works. I would hope that mighty shields are stackable, whereas regular shielding effects are not. That way, the shields can all work out nicely and not weirdly overwrite each other or not stack with each other. Let's look at the expertise before issuing final judgment here. The Eagle Banner. This commander's troop takes less damage from normal attacks, so great anti-swarm. And if this commander contains at least 3 different troop types, which is why this is oriented toward defending your city, damage taken is reduced by an extra percentage. These numbers are probably small. I would say this is probably like 10% less normal attack damage, maybe 15. And if you have at least 3 troop types, damage taken is probably reduced by an extra 5 to 10%. I don't think it's going to be anything too insane. Now, there's really not any open field commanders today, besides, I suppose you've got Trajan, where I'd say, oh yeah, you really want to use a mixed march. But actually, it is possible that Trajan, where you're bringing 3 troops anyways, infantry, cavalry, and archers, is a commander you might want to pair Heraclius with in a meta murder ball. It all kind of depends on how much they push the AoE damage. The thing that I'll say that's a little bit weird is, like, he boosts skill damage, Trajan doesn't really do skill damage. And you might make the argument, oh, well, maybe you pair this dude with Honda Tadakatsu. Yeah, maybe. Maybe you use a Honda secondary, you run some sort of mixed troops march with this commander. It's all going to depend on how much they push the values for their skills. But my suspicion, and has been the case, but this has been the case, by the way, for pretty much every garrison commander that comes out, is that you're either a garrison commander or you're a field commander, and you're typically not good at both. The only case where that's not true is when you're a field commander where they push the power so much that you work in a garrison anyways. That typically does not go the other way around, where you've got a garrison commander where the power's pushed so much that they work in the field. That wasn't the case with YSS. That really, in my opinion, wasn't the case with Flavius, not with Jadwiga, not with Zenobia. I don't think there's really been any garrison commanders that I can recall in recent history where the garrison commander's power was pushed so much that I'd say, oh, you better use him in the field too. So probably Heraclius is a commander that people can skip. Now, if that is true, great news, man. This could be a commander cycle where you can go and focus on your meta murder ball. Heraclius is going to be available from the mightiest governor. This, as it turns out, is yet another reason why people probably ought to skip him, is that he's going to be extremely expensive, and he's not even most optimized for fielding. He's most optimized for something that shouldn't be relevant to most people, which is getting your city hit. Now, in addition to these new commanders, you might have been wondering, Chisgule, what equipment do I use for these new commanders that care about siege? And the blue equipment is actually insane. And it makes me wonder how much are the developers going to push the stats on the new siege equipment that they've created here. The weapon is going to give attack. The helmet is giving attack. The legs are giving attack. This is all very good because in my estimation, range, units that are using siege really should just care about pushing the damage. More attack on the gloves. The legs give defense, and then the boots give health. I actually think this is a very balanced set, all things considered, for what it is you want to do with siege units, particularly with a ranged march. And what I think is interesting is that they're using materials we already have. So for those of you that really wanted to use your legendary bones, I have bad news for you. They're still completely worthless other than spending a ridiculous amount of gold to break them down into epics, and then the cost you pay to break them down will never be recouped by the tiny amount of gathering gain that they represent. Anyways, all that to say, I think that this siege armor could be interesting. Now, where's it going to come from? This is a set. So I was saying save your crystal keys in case it goes into crystal keys. If this is a set, then I don't think that it's going to actually be coming from the crystal keys, unfortunately. And we don't know what the set bonus is. But you can probably bank on this showing up in the Hunt for History and also the Holy Knight's Treasure. That's where I think you'll see this. Also, we could see it in the VIP shop as like a siege unit crate that, is way overpriced for what you get. Way overpriced. Historically, that's how that works. When we look in game, these aren't even advertised yet. So I couldn't tell you exactly where they're going to come from or what their stats are. And this leaves me wondering, why is it that the developers left all of the stats and all of the effects listed as 1%? And I have two theories. My theories are as follows. First of all, maybe the developers are still balancing everything. And so they wanted to get things patched into the game. But then once they're patched in, they can sort of change around the values still as they're doing their balance testing. So it could be that the developers are still balancing the commanders. We've seen this in the past with Boudica Prime, where she was released into the game. She had stronger stats than she actually ended up with in her final version. And I made a video talking about how they nerfed Boudica before she even went into game. So it is possible that the reason they left all these values for both the commanders and the equipment at 1% was specifically to avoid making it look like something got nerfed before it even arrived in game. The other thing they could be doing is trying to avoid people figuring out what's happening in a leak, but that feels pretty weak to me as a reason. I mean, look, the reality is that if leaks happen, then they're happening, and whether or not it shows 1% or the actual value, the leak is still happening either way if leaks are happening, and I don't think it's anti-leakware is what I'm trying to say. And that's a made up word, anti-leakware. I coined it here. I don't think it's good for that. In fact, I don't really know what it's good for. So we're still left wondering what the actual skills are. I can tell you, and I mean this constructively, that, showing 1% for all the values is not exactly great for building hype. I'll tell you that. As someone who wants to hype up new commanders, it's 1%. I don't know. What's the value? One pleasant surprise I had this morning is that there was a lost bundles section of the store, and there were some really high value bundles, which I can show you here, that had a very small price tag associated with them that gave a bunch of armaments. So I'll actually open these up now for those of you interested in seeing this. And these were really, really cheap compared to the normal bundles you can buy for armaments. And I'll open probably 5 at a time for these epics. I expect that I'm probably going to get wrecked. I am still going to stick with wedge formation. I feel like that's the formation to run with. And you can see, by the way, that now they've added a little icon to show you what formation it is. So not only visually do they represent, hey, this is wedge formation, but now they represent it again by having that little icon in the upper corner. All of these so far are garbage, and this is total garbage as well. This is my experience with armaments so far. Most don't make the cut. The thing to think about is, what is the average dollar cost per good armament? And by the way, if you watched my other video about that, card will be up in the top. That number for me was $250 for one good armament. But I mean, on average, this could have been really good, except Cleanser is barbarian damage, and these numbers all rolled stupidly low. So that is just garbage, actually. That's total garbage. Because these should have been as high as 2.5%. So rolling 1% on each means I won't use it at all. And from here, I hate my life. I actually hate my life. 2.5% defense, 2.5% attack, 1.7% siege unit health, and on top of that, troops march 5% faster outside of territory. That's a good pull, actually. That's an insane pull. 5 epic crates, and I got 3 legendaries with inscriptions and an epic with an inscription. Please don't suck. Please. This could be good, but I probably have better, but I'll lock it anyways. It really is all about the legendaries. Please don't suck. Please. That is weird. It's a bunch of troop types and phalanx. After using an active skill, troops have a 30% chance to gain a damage a shield. I'm going to hold on to that for commanders that do shields, but I doubt that I would use this since it's got kind of a weird mix of stats over here. Maybe this goes on Sargon. Maybe, because he's got some shield synergy. What do we have here? Gosh bless it. More stupid siege armaments. I swear. Troops' normal attacks have a 10% chance to deal 20% increased normal attack damage. All right, I guess. I have to lock it. It's mad. That could have been great. And then we get garbage. Total garbage. Wow. All right. Let's open 4 of these at a time. Legendary formation choice chests. Wedge formation. Okay, please don't suck. That is 1.5% all damage, but it's siege, so it sucks. This one sucks. I mean, it's double infantry, but march speed is really strangely under-leveraged here. Like, normally you use 1 point to get 3% march speed and 1 point in a talent tree to get 1% of stats. So this is just like way off balance for the march speed values. March speed is just terrible to get as a result. You'd rather get your march speed from somewhere else, is what I'm trying to say. It's super under-leveraged. And then this could have been amazing, but it's total trash. I mean, actual dog doo-doo. Okay, and then what do we get here? Come on, please. Okay. Trash. It could have been cool with another infantry stat, but it's trash. This is also could have been cool, but is actually just trash. And then this is just trash. And then total trash. GG. I swear, man. Armament spending. Ugh, I don't even want to talk about it. The developers did reveal that the new KVK format, Warriors Unbound, will have this artifact, and it sounded like you could only get one of them. You equip this artifact to a secondary commander, and their stats would apply for some other troop type. So you could potentially make a commander that's normally an archer commander do infantry stats, or an infantry commander do cavalry stats, or whatever. I think this KVK format looks really awesome, and they even released the map. Here's a zoomed in picture of what this looks like. I actually checked out a bunch of different languages for the Rise of Kingdoms update videos to see if there was any new information. All I got was actually this bigger map, but I'm kind of cool with the bigger map. This map design looks amazing. I'm going to make a separate video about this, but this looks like a mini version of Strife of the Eighth, and I am very happy about that. You have to fight to gain access to zones. You don't have to go quite as far around the map, potentially. The starting zones are also bigger, and the zones that you're fighting in are bigger. That, I think, is a huge win. Kingsland is still baby-sized. I don't feel great about that necessarily. I'd like to see like potentially a bigger Kingsland, but I think that having big open zones is where I want to be with my field fighting. I think that probably this KVK format and Strife will be my top two, followed by, I would say, probably the King of the Nile, then Heroic Anthem. Developers also revealed information about the Alliance Mobilization event, which I think is going to be really cool. Like, competing against other alliances is a huge win in my book, especially if that's during the off-season. Here's the rules for the new Alliance Mobilization event and a sneak peek at the rewards. Alliance officers sign up. The Alliance needs to have at least 30 people and an upwards of 100 participants in each league. Wait a minute. Each Alliance must have 30 and up to 100 participants in each league. The list of participants cannot be changed. That is so weird. So you're saying the whole Alliance doesn't participate. You've got to tell 50 people that they can just not play the event? I actually find that to be super perplexing. I mean, I get that they want to make it so that alliances can be competitive with each other. And you're like 100 people that you sign up all need to be super active or something. But if I'm understanding this correctly, what happens to the other 50 people in my alliance? Or if I'm in KVK, the upwards of like 15 plus more people, 165, 170, 180. Like, what happens to the other 80 people? The only reason I could see that they would do this is so that if you're in KVK or not, you have equal sort of, footing with each other because you have the same member restrictions. But this member thing seems strange to me. I don't understand it other than what I'm guessing, which is to make a level playing field, whether or not your alliance is in KVK. But what happens to the other people? Are they supposed to go to a farm alliance during this event? Like, what's it supposed to be? Each governor can only be selected to participate in the current event by one alliance. So you get selected to participate. You have to be City Hall 16. That is so weird. The system will randomly group alliances in the same league for the event. During the competition, your alliance participating members can accept quests for the alliance. They complete and turn in these quests to get points. Your alliance can have up to 30 quests at a time, and each participant can only accept one quest at a time. Typically, they don't lock the quests for the alliance. Like, what it sounds like is that there can only be 30 quests running at a time. So if somebody is doing a quest, then there will only be 29 other quests available at a time. If that's true, that seems weird. Normally, the way this works in other games is that there's basically a quest board, and you take down the quest from the board, and then you own it personally, and then the quest on the board gets replaced. So this is a weird way of running it, if I understand it correctly. During the competition, each participant will have up to 10 free quest attempts required to accept a quest, and can purchase one more with gems. So, I mean, look, everybody's going to have to spend gems if you're competing at the highest levels to get your 11 total quests that you can do. And you need to do all 10 of your quests. Like, this is not optional to be competitive. Like, you do all 10. When your alliance total points reach a certain threshold, its event level will be increased. During the reward phase, you can choose reward levels to receive based on your alliance's event level. At the end of the competition, alliances in the same group will be ranked according to their total points. Participating members in the top 5 alliances in a group and whose event level is at least 8 will receive rank rewards. In addition, some alliances will be promoted or relegated to different leagues based on their ranking within the group. Okay, so there's also a rank reward. Let's get a look here. The event leagues, there's Fearless Bronze, Dazzling Silver, Brave Gold, Immortal Diamond, and Supreme Suzerain? I actually don't know what that word means. Your alliance will be placed in the Fearless Bronze stage for the first time it participates in the event. You can get promoted, relegated, or remain in the same league. Based on your ranking within your group after the competition, the number of alliances promoted or relegated depends on the league. See below for more details. The higher your league, the more difficult the quests will be, and the more points you can earn for completing them. In addition, your alliance's event level cap will be increased in higher leagues. See below for more details. So basically, the amount of rewards you can get goes up in the higher leagues. And who gets promoted and who gets relegated is based on who's in the top 3 if you're an Immortal Diamond. Wow. And wow, bottom 5 and bottom 6 get demoted. I mean, this is going to be very exclusive to be a suzerain. Let me tell you, super exclusive. So there are level rewards. During the competition, you earn points by completing and turning in quests. Once your alliance total points reaches certain thresholds, its event level will be increased. At the end of the competition, there's a rewards phase. During this time, you choose one of the 3 rewards at each level. Now, it's funny because, like, lots of games do this, but, like, they don't have to do this. Like, they could just have you just get a reward per level. But I don't know why, but, like, every game where I've seen this event, and this event is, like, a staple in the city building war game genre, they all have a pick one for this event for some reason. They all are doing the same thing. Okay, whatever. They've landed on the Alliance Mobilization meta. The higher your Alliance's league, the better the rewards for each level. During the reward phase, you can only claim rewards for the Alliance that signed up for the event. Any rewards you fail to claim in time will be lost. I kind of wish they would just send you rewards in the mail here. I get that you have to pick one, and if you didn't pick, they don't know what to send you. But, like, it'd be nice if they just sent you the rewards. Here's the potential rewards. So the thing that I think is really cool is they have both armaments and army expansions and gold heads and materials, even patterns as well. So if we get a look over here, this is the rank rewards for your alliance. This is the supreme sort of fifth tier. If you're the number one ranked in your group, you get some crystal keys, some gold keys, some resources. Actually not all that important besides the gems, but it's not that many gems anyways, 2,000 gems. It's kind of like, oh, okay. I mean, these are fine rewards. The rewards that you're really after, by the way, here's the top 5 rank rewards. This is what you're after over here is the level rewards. So when your alliance reaches level 1, you could get speed ups. At the higher levels, they're making you pick between resources and not even gold is an option. Higher up, they're starting to give some materials. I like that bone is not an option. That's a win. I think that these pick rewards are okay. I would like to see more diversity. Like, what they've done here is they're like, oh, look, you can pick a type of speed up. But in my preference, what they would have done is each column would be a type of reward. So, like, the leftmost column would be all armament stuff. The middle column would be all speed up stuff. The rightmost column would be all miscellaneous stuff, like army expansions. And that way, you could move down the list. And, like, if all you cared about is armaments, you go, boom, armament, like, all the way down the list. That's what I would like to see. And this is showing you that basically the rewards for all the leagues are the same for these, but higher leagues can have more levels of rewards. So you can only get to level 12 at the lowest league, whereas, you know, you could get higher and higher depending on which league you're actually in here. So coming back to what was almost certainly on the thumbnail of this video, are these commanders skippable? I would say the answer is for a lot of people who aspire to have 5 marches in the open field and be absolutely smashing, and especially if you spend any amount of money on crystal technology, the answer is yes. I think you probably can, because at the end of the day, having all your marches be mobile and in the same place, hitting the same thing is really important. And you can kind of do that with a ranged commander, but it's going to be very difficult to manage them and your field marches at the same time, unless there's some new controls that they come up with. Otherwise, I think there will be some number of people who aren't going to do that much field fighting, that aren't going to go through billions of resources, that can set up their tower and can even set up their tower AFK to defend something potentially before they go offline. And it can add a lot of value. And I think for those people, maybe the ranged commanders could be pretty good. Of course, I'd be happy to be wrong about that and have ranged commanders be really, really strong. The only way we'll know is once we see the real values for the commanders. So if you want to see that, consider subscribing to the channel and throwing a like on the video to support the video. You're like 30 minutes into a Chisgule gaming video, so you must have found some value throughout this video, right? So thank you for your support. I appreciate you. And if you want to see how big Imperiums are currently using the ranged formation, which is to say they're really not using it much at all, then check the cards in the end screen, which are live streams from the 1960-365 KVK when those guys are fighting.